barrier and lead the very first women majority and most diverse city council that New York City has ever seen. For New Yorkers, it meant that for the very first time, our city's lawmaking body truly reflected the rich diversity of our city, which has empowered us to govern differently than our predecessors. We turned our attention towards women and families, prioritizing the people who make up the backbone of our city and sit at the intersection of multiple marginalized communities. By centering Black communities and communities of color, we can confront the long-standing inequities facing all New Yorkers. I want to specifically thank some of our leaders who played such a critical role. Councilmember Crystal Hudson, who demonstrated leadership by introducing a Black agenda. Councilmember Kevin Riley as BLAC co-chair. Councilmember Althea Stevens for her leadership on a Black agenda. And the many other members, and of course, our public advocate. Together, we work to fight the housing crisis and confront issues of public health, public safety, and economic and educational opportunities for all, because this is what helps our communities succeed. Black communities and other communities of color are the most harmed by violence, but are too often are the least helped by victim services. And that recognition by our council led us to help establish trauma recovery centers and support increased victim services at the local level. We also passed a set of police transparency bills because accountability is pivotal to establishing the trust that is necessary to make our communities safer. And just as all struggles for progress come with opposition, we continue to contend with resistance to change. We are remaining true to the facts and what our communities are experiencing on the ground. The disproportionate and increasing numbers of police stops of Black and Latino New Yorkers demand action to protect against discriminatory practices, which our legislative efforts address. This is how we respond to the legacies of harm that have subjected too many of our friends, our neighbors, and family members in Black and Latino communities to discriminatory treatment that deprives us of our humanity and right to safety. We are actively building towards a future where New Yorkers can afford to raise their families in our city, and longtime residents can afford to remain in their neighborhoods. As a key determinant of health and safety, housing is one of the best ways we can help secure stability for all New Yorkers. Too often, affordable housing has not been truly affordable. Though there is clear consensus that the city needs to increase housing production, we must be sure to do so in an equitable way that reaches the communities and New Yorkers who need housing at the deepest affordability levels. The Fair Housing Framework Act we enacted will help our city ensure that well-resourced neighborhoods that have not equitably contributed to affordable housing production do their fair share. It sets local housing goals based on equity in our city's needs with real affordability as a priority. As we tackle the housing crisis, there are actions we can take immediately to alleviate our related crises of homelessness and rising evictions. The City Council passed new laws to remove barriers to City FEP's rental assistance, to help relieve our overburdened shelter system, create a real pathway for people to exit them, and help low-income New Yorkers at risk of eviction remain in their homes instead of slipping into homelessness. These City FEP's reforms offer our city an opportunity to take positive steps in a new direction. It's a lifeline for New Yorkers, and they're relying on us to advance these policies. The urgency here cannot be understated. We know that evictions are surging in our city and that it is most likely to harm Black New Yorkers. The New York Times recently reported that in any given year, approximately 1/4 of Black children under 5 years old live in a rental household facing eviction, which has significant implications on our children's educational and health outcomes. That's why we haven't wavered on insisting that the administration implement our laws, because they remove the barriers standing in the way of what our communities truly need. Black New Yorkers and minority families, just like all others in our city, deserve to be an equal priority. We've been clear about this, as my colleagues will highlight. Now I'd like to invite Majority Whip Sylvina Brooks Powers and Council Member Sandy Nurse to speak more about our work to expand priorities for home ownership and to confront the intersecting crises of housing, homelessness, and evictions.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm proud to stand alongside the Speaker and the leadership of the Black subcomponent of BLAC and my colleagues here today to talk about how this council has supported Black communities. And I want to touch specifically on an issue that is so important to Black New Yorkers in my district, homeownership. New York City's homeownership rate is about half the nationwide number. It is even less for New Yorkers of color. Our homeownership rate for Black residents is 27%, and for Hispanic and Latino residents, it is roughly 17%, well below half of the 42% rate for white New Yorkers. Homeownership empowers residents, especially those in communities of color or low-income neighborhoods, to build generational wealth. That's why we need to invest in homeownership such that when these New Yorkers buy a home, they know this city has their back. Last term, I was proud to sponsor Introduction 384, now Local Law 125. This bill created the Office of the Homeowner Advocate within HPD to provide support to homeowners, alongside nonprofits that are currently providing services for homeowners. The Office of Homeowner Advocate will help homeowners access resources and create public awareness campaigns about the rights and responsibilities of homeowners. I note, too, that we advance a rezoning in my district that will result in the first 100% affordable homeownership project on the peninsula in over a decade. This council repeatedly demonstrated its commitment to homeowners. For example, we passed legislation to reduce the cost of purchasing and installing backwater valves. We secured $90 million to protect working and middle-class homeowners with a property tax rebate. And we funded $11 million in HPD programs to support homeowners, including Help Desk, Home First, and Home Fix. These programs are essential to ensuring homeowners have the resources available to obtain and maintain their homes. I want to once again thank the Speaker for her leadership on this issue. She knows how important it is to invest in our communities and to empower residents to invest in their communities long term. And I want to thank the leadership of the Black Subcommittee, who have led the Council's efforts to support and uplift the needs of diverse communities citywide, as well as the BLAC leadership. I want to close by recognizing that the city's Black population has declined by nearly 200,000 people in the past 2 decades. So many of these New Yorkers, low-income New Yorkers and New Yorkers of color, are being priced out of the city. We have to work to ensure these New Yorkers have the ability and the stability to stay. I look forward to continuing the work with my colleagues to expand resources for homeowners and making the American dream more accessible here in the city of New York. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Speaker Adams, for hosting this, and thank you to the BLACK subcommittee chairs, co-chairs, Crystal Hudson and Althea Stevens, for all of your work in pushing us to advance this legislation. I'll keep mine short. Intro 1153 was something we just passed at the end of this last session. It's a simple bill that will do a lot to finally bring some insight into the harmful practice of homeless sweeps. It will require regular reporting on homeless removals, including how removals are initiated, where and how often they occur, which agencies are involved, how much they cost, how many involuntary hospitalizations occurred through the removal, and if people are actually being offered services. We know that homelessness is a racial justice issue that negatively and disproportionately impacts Black people. We know that illegal evictions are on the rise, particularly in Black and brown communities, and our current approach is really counterproductive. Our strategy right now is to really hide and criminalize homelessness rather than solve it. What we should be doing is investing in housing first strategies to get people off the street, immediately place them into permanent housing, safe housing, and then provide wraparound services to them. And my hunch is that this bill will show that the majority of sweeps are being carried out by the NYPD and the Department of Sanitation with very little DHS boots on the ground. I believe this will show we are spending way too much on hiding homelessness instead of enacting smart policies like the Council City FEP's voucher package, like Housing First, like getting NYCHA vacancies down, and many other strategies that have been listed by the Council in the past. So thank you again, Speaker Adams, for bringing us together.
Thank you so much, council members. The council was also proud to advance economic and educational opportunities for New Yorkers, including pioneer programs like CUNY Reconnect to help working-age New Yorkers finish their degrees to increase their earning potential. Our goal was to re-enroll 14,000 returning students, but to date, we've reached over 25,000 students, the majority of whom are women and people of color. I invite council members Althea Stevens, Natasha Williams, Rita Joseph, and Farrah Lewis to speak more about our work to strengthen equitable opportunities for all New Yorkers.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Councilmember Althea Stevens. Oh, thank you. Good afternoon. I love when you guys give me feedback. Love that energy. I'm Councilmember Althea Stevens, and I am one of the co-chairs of the BLACK, along with co-chair Crystal Hudson, and thank you to the leadership of both Councilmember Riley and Felice, who really saw it need to make sure that we had representation at all levels. So not only do we have the BLACK, we have subcommittees for the Asians and the Latinos as well, so we can make sure we're having these conversations. And I've been honored to lead this charge with my co-chair. History has shown us time and time again that Black people's struggles represent the struggles of all oppressed people, not just across the city, but across this country. Thus, it is significant that we continue to collaborate and cultivate Black leadership to ensure that we are capturing the voices of hardworking, resilient, and people who are struggling across the city. Together, as we address systematic disparities that are historic has impacted our communities, that have created gaps and the inequities in our city that often pushes us apart, but we have to continue to work together as we're moving forward. Last year, I passed a number of legislation that not only uplifts and support the Black community, but also young people across the city. One of those legislation was the LGBTQ+ homeless youth population, establishing a streamlined intake process citywide for our homeless drop-in centers, in addition to the creation of the Juvenile Justice Advisory Board. These are critical to not only the Black community, but it's too often that we are not investing in our young people, and they're often overlooked. Their voices are silenced when they are not outreached and when we're not letting them lead the conversations. Our city has to continue to invest in our young people on the front end, so we are not investing on them on the back end. And the legislation that we continue to push throughout the city is one that we are making sure that our young people are front and center and being part of the conversation. One of the things that I am most proud of from last year is the creation of Black Girl Magic Day, an effort to symbolize the current and future generations of Black girls across the city. We will tell the stories and the journeys and the strides and success made by Black women across this city and this country, and the things that we do each and every day. We can't speak about creating equality in the city if we're not cultivating safe spaces and fostering stability for our youth in all facets of life. It is our responsibility and duty as Black electeds to make sure that the history doesn't repeat itself, and essential when there is power to change, we must change it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm so excited, thank you. I'm so excited to be here with my esteemed colleagues and really to be in a council with individuals who really put equity first. Today I stand before you with great pride to discuss two landmark pieces of legislation that we recently passed, ushering in a new era of equity and justice for our beloved city. These bills are rooted in the principles of anti-racism and are a testament to our commitment to fostering an inclusive and fair environment for all. First, the local law to amend the New York City Charter is a groundbreaking step towards eradicating racial discrimination within our city agencies. Our nearly 400,000 public servants, the backbone of our city government, play crucial roles in shaping the future of New York. With tailored anti-racism and anti-discrimination trainings for employees, interns, and volunteers, we will ensure that every individual, regardless of their role, receives the education necessary to create a workplace free from prejudice. Recent data from the Equal Employment Opportunities Commission highlights the pressing need for such measures, with race being one of the top 5 complaints nationally alongside retaliation and disability. By addressing this issue head-on, we are not only complying with legal standards, but we actively work towards a more just and equitable city. This bill is not just a legal requirement, it is a moral imperative that underscores our commitment to a diverse and inclusive New York. The second piece of legislation is a local law that would amend the administrative code of the City of New York in response to the deeply concerning reports of hostile work environments within the fire department. The stories of discrimination faced by women, ethnic minorities, and members of the LGBTQIA+ communities are disheartening and still continue. The recent lawsuits against Queens firefighters and an openly gay firefighter underscore the urgency of our intervention. By introducing annual reporting requirements for the fire department, this will hold them accountable for addressing equal employment opportunity complaints. This not only sheds light on the issues faced by our brave firefighters, but it also ensures accountability. This bill delivers exactly that. By addressing systematic racism and discrimination, we are directly working towards creating a city where everyone, regardless of their background, has equal opportunities and protections. These bills are a step towards dismantling barriers that have disproportionately affected the Black community for far too long. In continuing the spirit of breaking down barriers and advancing equity, I am eagerly anticipating the forward progression of our Juneteenth package this year. Just had to give a quick plug. And as we continue to celebrate Juneteenth, a day that commemorates the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, we recognize that our work is far from complete. These bills will aim to build on the progress we've made and extend the principles of justice, equality, and empowerment to every corner of our community. By commemorating Juneteenth through legislative action, we signal our commitment to not only acknowledging the struggles of the past, but actively working towards a future where every citizen, again, regardless of who you are, has an opportunity for education, economic empowerment, and social justice. This legislation represents a collective commitment to justice, and I'm so excited again to be a part of this body and thank the Speaker for her leadership in prioritizing these pieces of legislation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Speaker Adams, BLAC co-chairs, Councilmember Felice, Riley, Stevens, and Hudson, thank you for your leadership. I'm particularly proud to share 2 significant victories achieved by the BLAC caucus focused on education and our young people in New York City. Intro 043 ensures high school students have access to ID NYC. This is a crucial step towards empowering our youth by providing them with vital resources that open doors to various opportunities, such as our incredible cultural institutions. When our students have access to ID NYC, it not only fosters a sense of belonging, but facilitates engagement in our diverse city. By doing this, we're setting our students on a path towards active participation in the community. Additionally, I'm incredibly proud of Intro 0857, bill aimed at expanding data captured by New York City Public Schools to report on students, the metric of students in foster cares and those in temporary housing. By incorporating these metrics, we're taking a pivotal step towards progress in addressing a unique challenge faced by these students, ensuring that our educational policies are tailored to meet their specific needs. This commitment is a reflection of our dedication to fostering an equitable education system that leaves no student behind. These legislative victories exemplify the Black Caucus' unwavering commitment to creating positive change in our city. Together, we're shaping policies that prioritize the diverse needs of our students and empower them to reach their full potential. I'm grateful for this collaborative effort that leads the passage of my bills, and I look forward to continuing our work in more inclusive and supportive education system for all of our New York City students, especially our students of color who are usually in foster care and have no one to speak up for them. As a foster mom who adopted her 2 boys, this job is personal, so thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm truly honored to stand alongside my BLAC co-chairs, Felice and Riley, as well as our subcommittee co-chairs for BLACK, Hudson and Stevens. Thank you so much for your leadership, as well as Speaker Adrian Adams, on the impact of legislation to remove the economic disparities and close the pay gap and pay equity issues in the municipal workforce. Intros 515A by Speaker Adams, 527A by Carmen de la Rosa, and 541A by myself were the package, the pay equity package, and passing this legislation would mark a crucial step forward in our ongoing commitment to achieving universal pay equity across our city. New York is the largest municipal workforce in the country, and we demand and deserve equity from the government in their pay and employment across gender and ethnicity. I need glasses. I firmly believe that equity in the workforce and in the workplace is the cornerstone of a just society. Despite the progress we've made, disparities persistent, with women in the city earning 90 cents for every dollar earned by a man in this very city. The lack of progress in closing the city's gender pay gap creates challenges and significantly impacts women of color. It is disheartening that 4 years after the enactment of Local Law 18 of 2019, we still witness significant wage pay gaps between our dedicated public servants. Women also continue to face longstanding social barriers to career advancement, including time off to raise their children and shouldering more responsibilities than men. And gender discrimination has kept some women from reaching the highest paid leadership and executive positions. Our city council, now more diverse than ever, stands at a unique moment in history. We have the opportunity to pass bold legislation that will leave a lasting legacy of equitable pay in New York City government for decades to come. With the successful and timely passage of the pay equity package, we are focusing both on the vital aspect of fulfilling vacancies in an equitable manner. We are committing to exploring and ultimately addressing the underlying issues that perpetuate these inequities within our city government. As we continue to impact these landmark legislation, let us focus our attention on the Black and brown New Yorkers who are impacted. This package directly addresses the disparities faced by workers who continue to be marginalized in terms of pay. By expanding our reach of our oversight and collecting more comprehensive data, we are taking a significant step forward to dismantling the systemic barriers that hinder the advancement and fair compensation of Black and brown New Yorkers. I'll end with this. Let us continue to celebrate these packages and packages mentioned by my colleagues today, and continue to advocate for justice while ensuring the principles of pay equity become ingrained in our fabric in our city. And I look forward to continuing to work with my colleagues on these initiatives. Thank you.
This council has also taken action to improve health outcomes for underserved communities, passing a historic package of laws to confront maternal health and mortality and address the severe disparities that disproportionately harm Black women and birthing people. We also released our ongoing mental health roadmap, which recognizes community-based care programs as proven solutions to prevent crises and promote healthier and safer communities, and our legislative efforts to confront historic inequities in the treatment of sickle cell disease that primarily affects people of African ancestry have been critically important. I invite BLAC co-chair Kevin Riley, then Councilmember Mercedes Narcisse, to speak more about our advancements in public health.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. I would like to thank Speaker Adrienne Adams for her leadership and my colleagues in government for being Amazon leaders in advocacy and collective partnerships. Today, we are gathered to celebrate the remarkable legislative achievements in support of uplifting Black community during our last Legislative Council session. As the co-chair of the Black, Latino, and Asian Caucus, it is imperative that we not only prioritize the protection of our Black community, but actively advocate for policies, support, and initiatives that foster equity and progress, ensuring they receive the rightful recognition and advancement they deserve in our city. Amongst the amazing bills that you just heard my colleagues announce, I am humbly and thankfully proud of my bill, Intro 1022-A, which establishes 5 new clubhouses for individuals with serious mental illnesses that will include community-based wraparound services. Our collective effort to advocate for the expansion of clubhouses throughout our city was and is a pivotal stride in ensuring that all New Yorkers, regardless of background, have access to a crucial mental health resources. For many individuals of color, the discussion of mental health illness and its effects on our communities, families, and neighborhoods are taboo. Being able to be one of the 51 council members with the ability to dispel this myth and provide essential services to those most impacted provides a sense of relief, not only to those affected, but for us as elected officials. Our work is not done, and I look forward to our continued partnerships, increased advocacy, and on-the-ground organizing to continue to address the needs of our communities. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I can say I am proud. I'm Black, and I'm very, very proud to work, to have all my esteemed colleagues that make it in the city of New York, that make it possible, and tell all Black folks in the city of New York that you're relevant. I see you, and I understand what you're going through. So, having a speaker like Madam Speaker Adrienne Adams, that you get it. And for that, I want to say thank you. In million years for my services as a nurse, I never thought that I would be here to address diseases, not one, many things that we're going through, to create that opportunity, to create the space. Not only that we hear, many times that we're in places just to be in a place, but not really addressing the issues and bringing solution to the problem. We hear it loud and clear. As we move into 2024, I am confident that our council will build upon the many victories won in 2023 with all the help with under the leadership of Madam Speaker. I thank you for your leadership on healthcare issues that matter to so many New Yorkers. It is an honor to stand here and recognize some of our significant legislative accomplishments of the past session, particularly in the areas crucial to so many New Yorkers: housing, public health, equitable opportunity, because we may be here, but we don't have the opportunity. As a registered nurse, I have witnessed firsthand the challenges and the disparities that exist in our city's public health system. My healthcare experience fueled my desire to enact meaningful change through legislation, especially for those conditions that disproportionately affect members of traditionally underserved communities, such as sickle cell disease. We passed my bill, Intro 968, into law to confront the historic racial disparities in treatment of sickle cell disease that primarily affects people of African descent, which I call it a Black disease. With a focus on education, genetic screening, and ensuring equitable care It mandates comprehensive guidelines for better detection, management, and treatment of the sickle cell disease. This new law will improve the quality of life for those living with sickle cell disease and for equipping hospitals with necessary tools and knowledge to provide the best possible care. We have the responsibility to ensure that those affected by sickle cell are not just seen, but are cared for with dignity, empathy, and afforded the best medical practices available. More than 1 in 4 New Yorkers, has another bill, has blood pressure. I know it. And our community are dying with high blood pressure. To combat this, we passed my bill into law to increase access to blood pressure machines by requiring the Department of Health to post on its website where blood pressure machines in New York City are located. Make at-home blood pressure machines available at no cost to the public at the federally qualified health centers in 5 high-need areas. As we move forward, we will continue to advocate for policies that not only address immediate health concerns, but also tackle the root causes of health disparities in our communities. We are making a fundamental and profound difference in the lives of so many New Yorkers because of you, Madam Speaker. We have acknowledged that health is indeed wealth. We say it all the time, but we never mean it. And as such, it must be prioritized and viewed as a right, not a privilege, where every individual, regardless of your race or economic status, you can lead to a healthy and fulfilling life. It is possible. And I am grateful to Madam Speaker and all my colleagues for your unwavering support and dedication to these causes. I know when you're not sick, you're not thinking about sickness. But as a nurse being in this space, it's my responsibility. Like I asked you, when was the last time you have a colonoscopy? When was the last time you went to the doctor? I know it's a very uncomfortable conversation, but this is my responsibility, being in this space, to push for policies to change people's lives. And I am committed to continue this important work and to serve you and to serve a voice in this space. And our community deserve better equity in all aspects, including healthcare. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope you all are noticing something that is really, really special and distinct about this body, and particularly the individuals that have presented to you so far. This council doesn't come up with catchy slogans. This council actually takes every piece of legislation personally, particularly as a council that is majority women. We're just different like that. Our legislation is different. We take things personally. We have personal experiences that we bring like no one else has brought before to this whole city. I'm so proud of my colleagues. You just don't know. I don't get their presentations before they make them before you. You all are so impressive. Mercedes, I will thank you for your blood pressure legislation. As one who has been on blood pressure meds for over a decade, I thank you for making this personal to me. We have pursued an all-of-the-above approach to public safety that recognizes communities are safer when we holistically invest in a broader set of solutions. I invite Councilmember Crystal Hudson and then our public advocate, Jumaane Williams, to speak more about our holistic approach to public safety and what we have secured for New Yorkers.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I created a Black agenda for New York City when I was first running for City Council back in 2021. And it was created in the midst of a global pandemic that saw Black Americans dying at twice the rate of other Americans. We know that when Black New Yorkers thrive, all New Yorkers thrive, and that Just because we have an agenda, a black agenda for New York City, it doesn't mean it's exclusive. It doesn't mean it excludes anyone. It means it's inclusive by design. It means that when we actually create policies and we have practices and laws that are rooted in black folks, the needs of black folks, and those of us who've been most marginalized, that everybody benefits. And I want to also just be clear about one thing. You can't legally legislate just for black people. So that is not what any of these bills do. What they do is that they create bills and legislation that is rooted in the needs of black people. And so when we do that, everybody benefits. Just one really quick example, the very first piece of legislation that I passed last year, or last session, I should say, in 2022, was addressing the black maternal mortality crisis. But it benefits all women and birthing people, giving everybody access to information about doulas. Everybody benefits from that, not just black women. The How Many Stops Act is comprised of two bills, Intro 586, which is sponsored by our public advocate and Councilmember Alexa Viles, and Intro 536, which I'm the prime sponsor of, that will require a comprehensive accounting of all NYPD street stops, investigative encounters, and consent searches, including for the purposes of DNA collection. In effect, the How Many Stops Act seeks to give policymakers and the general public a more complete picture of police officers' interactions with the public, helping identify and curb patterns of stop and frisk policing. This package completes the 2013 Community Safety Act and the 2017 Right to Know Act, eliminating loopholes that have been exploited by the NYPD to underreport encounters with the public. In effect, the How Many Stops Act does not dictate how officers document encounters. If the NYPD creates a burdensome system, then the process will be burdensome. But the documentation process can be done seamlessly and without interruption of an officer's police work. Reporting is simple, it's easy, and can be done from an officer's smartphone. Reporting will not require the officer to leave their assigned patrol area, as has been portrayed. The facilitator for the stop and frisk civil suit wrote in his final report that this kind of reporting creates virtually no additional burden on officers, and reporting will not be required for all interactions with the public. So, for example, if a tourist stops a police officer to ask for directions, that officer is not required to document this interaction. But as we've seen, there's been plenty of opposition to the How Many Stops Act, and those are two of the primary and baseless arguments that have been made. Level 1 and 2 stops currently underreported by the NYPD can and have escalated to brutality or even death, as in the case of Antonio Williams, who was killed waiting for a taxi in the Bronx in the escalation of a Level 1 encounter. How Many Stops Act has received the support of so many families of victims of police violence. And I can't help but think that had this legislation been in place so many years ago, it could have perhaps prevented the deaths of their family members. And this legislation will absolutely help to prevent further deaths in the future. Thank you. Money with the props.
Thank you. Peace and blessings, love and light to everyone. Thank you for being here, even though there's a conveniently concurrent press conference happening at the same time. I just want to first just thank the speaker for her leadership. Me personally, working with the law firm of Adams & Adams, it's just great to have at least one partner who's really focused on having an honest conversation and helping the people of New York City. So thank you so much for your leadership. And to the leaders of the BLAC and the BLACK, and again, the speaker, to have a conversation around what black New Yorkers need, it takes more courage than folks think. To use the term black when you mean black takes more courage than people might think. So I want to thank you for that. And thank you for clarifying that this is not exclusive, that it is inclusive, and helping a community that has been needing this kind of help for so long helps everybody. It's necessary. Had we been doing it before, we might not be where we are today. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. Most of the work that I've done has been around public safety. That obviously impacts black New Yorkers and impacts black and brown New Yorkers and impacts many of the people that we know personally. I'm proud of the most work we did around particularly gun violence, but also proud of the work we did around bills to change how we do policing. Our communities are very much, and I always say this, sandwiched between very real street violence that we can't ignore and very real, often over-policing, over-incarceration that's meant to solve that problem. But right now, we're trying to arrest the children of the people we arrested 20 years ago, 10 years ago, so that if it would have worked, it would have worked already. And so, as the speaker said, we need a holistic approach. And part of that approach is actually making sure we have a fairer, more equitable, more transparent and accountable law enforcement system and jail system. Unfortunately, it seems the mayor's thinking about vetoing some bills, one of which he himself actually supported. And there's a lot of misinformation. The first is around 549A, commonly known as the solitary bill. So I do want to clarify some things that I heard from the DOC, and actually the monitor, who, by the way, we just got the letter, and we had been asking for communications with the DOC for months, and unfortunately, we weren't able to get that, and perhaps the conversation would be more productive if we can have conversations prior to what we have to do. And so one, I think when people and when the administration is talking about solitary and people talking and pushing back, they're trying to have people envision Shawshank Redemption and the visions they see there when it comes to solitary, because what we often want to do in situations like this is get people's emotions to override their intelligence. And so we want to make sure that we're having a conversation that is both emotional, but also make sure that we don't override our intelligence. So, no, the solitary we're speaking about doesn't happen the way it happens in Shawshank Redemption. It is still happening. Some of it systemically, some of it not. Some of it is we hear stories of people being held in a space for more than 24 hours multiple times. That's the parts that are off the books that they don't want you to know. And so that does still happen. But it also happens systemically on the books. And so what we hear is, and what they report is that they have emergency lock-ins that are supposed to be for safety that go on for a long time and days at a time and are 24 hours. So that actually is, by definition, solitary. This bill is one of the reasons we tried to address the emergency lock-ins so we can try to take away some of that, or at least put some guardrails on when they have to use it. The other part that we really want to focus on was isolation. Because isolation is the thing that we know harms the mind, and data shows does not help the person become better or adjust their behavior. In fact, it does the opposite. It causes more violence. And so that might be the reason we haven't been able to get a handle on the violence in Rikers Island. So what this bill does is define solitary, define isolation. It absolutely allows for separation, because we do need to separate people who might be a harm to themselves or other folks. It allows for a de-escalation period, and it allows for people to be put into restrictive housing. It allows privileges to be taken away as a way to try to adjust behavior. The one thing that it says is we should not be using isolation to try to change that behavior, because it is harmful. And so what the administration does is kind of lump all that together to try to confuse folks. And my hope is that perhaps the mayor and others would actually read the bill. I'm not sure if they've read it, because sometimes the bills they're discussing is much different than the bill we've actually passed. And it might be just the administration that believes that the status quo on Rikers Island is good. Most of us think it's not. And if it's not before this bill, that means we have to try something new if you want to get a different result and response. Next, I want to talk about the How Many Stops Act. This one really saddens me, because I have to say, this administration presented itself as being different. I'm going to speak for myself. I have never seen this amount of deceptive practices and deception and misinformation in all of my years working with multiple mayors. I've never seen the type of deception from what I remember becoming a man under Mayor Giuliani, working with Mayor Bloomberg. And that's a tough thing to say, But for this administration to be on the line of Giuliani, Bloomberg, Adams, and how we talk about public safety, it's painful to have to see. Literally things that are simply not what the bill says, over and over and over again. We have been for a decade talking about these kind of issues. And until recently, the mayor himself supported reporting on level 1 and level 2. I, again, have to urge the mayor and others and the public to actually read the bill, which might correct some of the misconceptions. But now I have to think that they are purposeful misconceptions, and they are intentionally changing what the bill actually is supposed to do. Transparency should be shouldn't be a point of conflict or confrontation. It should be a shared goal and a basis for conversation. We passed those bills dealing with the abuses of stop, question, and frisk many, many years ago. And we have to remember what we're doing and why we're doing it. Over a decade ago, they stopped more young black men than actually lived in the city of New York. One of the reasons that we knew there were abuses of stop, question, and frisk is because we had data that we didn't have before that told us. Right now, a quarter of all NYPD stops in a recent monitor's report were unconstitutional. They were unconstitutional stops, according to the monitor's report that was put in place to correct what was going on with the abuses of stop, question, and frisk. 97% of those were of black and brown New Yorkers. A mayor who will be charged with implementing this bill is actively undermining it and misinforming people, including new recruits. This is a dangerous precedent being set. So first, I'm asking the mayor to just cease that, if possible. If officers engage with the public less, stay in their cars on their phones, then it will be because Mayor Adams has told them to, not because our bill requires it. Our bill is, for all intents and purposes, simply a reporting bill to log and report basic information on level 1 and 2s. This reporting can be accomplished through a brief smartphone survey, does not apply to conversations and the community. And I would like to read directly from the bill. And I'm asking reporters in the media to do the research yourself, please, because they are not stopping with the misinformation. They're not stopping pushing the fear-mongering and using people's fears against them. So I'm asking the media to don't even take my word for it. Do your own research. In the legislation, it is defined investigative encounter. The term investigative encounter means an interaction between a member of the public, a member of the department and a member of the public for law enforcement or investigative purpose. The term does not include a casual conversation or interaction between a member of the department and a member of the public. Did everyone hear that? Just want to make sure that it was clear. In the bill, the term does not include a casual conversation or interaction between a member of the department and a member of the public. We wrote that into the bill. As a matter of fact, we wrote that into a response to concerns that we heard because, unlike administration, we are listening to what people are saying and we try our best. This information the information we want to get on the bill is critical to prevent the practices in the right now. Some of it is anecdotal, but if we, the council, the public advocate, the advocates, and the admin are looking at the same data, then we can all have the same conversation. Instead of misinformation about the bill, just continue to remember why it is necessary. Effectively producing safety based on results, not hysteria, means getting critical information about whether and how policing reforms are being implemented on the ground. This is not preventing police work. This actually is police work. New Yorkers have a right to know this information. Elected officials have an obligation to create policies based on it to ensure community safety and prevent injustices. Through simply reporting on NYPD stops, we can prevent the kind of bias-based policing we've seen in the past, build trust in often over-policed areas, and continue the work that began a decade ago amid the height of stop, question, and frisk. I know the mayor just said that they wouldn't be able to stop a serial stabber because of the 20-second reform. What I'm hearing is beyond the pale of anything logical. It is asinine, and insane. It's beyond the pale of anything that I've heard with previous mayors. They would not have been able to catch a serious step. By the way, the mayor does not have the sole thoughts on how to keep this city safe, and he's not the sole person infected. All of us are affected. As a matter of fact, one of those people stabbed right near a family member of mine who was very scared, and the arrest happened a few blocks away from them. The mayor is not the only person who cares about New Yorkers and them being safe. All of us actually were elected on the message of public safety. The truth is, and this is important too, however they define level 1, because another thing that he says is that there's a court order that says level 1s must include casual conversations and general conversations. I want to pause there. Right here is the patrol guide. I want you to take a look at the patrol guide. Because the patrol guide right now tells officers how to tag their level 1 and level 2 encounters. It's right here. Selective encounter from the categories is a drop-down list, which is something we recommend for our bill. Select level of encounter from the drop-down list, add metadata, level 1 encounter. This is what it happens if it escalates to a level 2 encounter. So right now, before our bill, there was a process that they're supposed to be doing to tag level 1, level 2 encounters in their body-worn cameras at the end of the tour. What we recommend is that you can do it right after the encounter, or you can do it at the end of the tour when you already have to do it. And what was remarkable to me in one of those videos, which was actually pretty good, it was pretty good videos, it was entertaining. But in one of those videos, they have an officer at a table frustrated at the computer because they said this, which is shocking to me. It undermines the whole thing. She has to tag her body-worn cameras. So if you can see that there's a different definition of level 1s, if you can see that, whatever they think it is, they have to tag it already on their body-worn cameras. So the question is the mayor saying, we don't have to follow our patrol guide? We don't want our police officers doing the police work that the patrol guide says? Because that's a different argument than what the mayor is saying right now. We should all be working together for better policing and safer streets, and we can only do that if we have transparency about how police and civilians interact on our streets. Deliberate efforts to mislead the public about this bill have created an environment of misunderstanding, misinformation, exactly the kind of confusion and conflict that hard data can combat. By the way, the monitor has said there is an undercounting of these type of stops, a miscounting of these type of stops, and sometimes people aren't doing it at all. Here's the rub. That's what our bill is trying to correct. It's exactly the issues that our bill is trying to get at. Whatever the fearmongering has fabricated, the reality is that this bill, crafted with NYPD input, there's a question in there that the NYPD asked us to add, which we did. It merely requires sharing basic data on the number and nature of law enforcement stops. I believe the department, with the technological capabilities the NYPD has displayed, will be able to do this reporting quickly and effectively. Mayor Adams is threatening the public safety of New Yorkers, I think, to protect his own ego. I don't know why, but he has time to change his position. He has done it before. He can do it again. Lastly, I want to make sure that we're clear, because there's another point that they bring up, and that's the missing persons one. We listen to what folks are saying when they say it. We have recommended, and the problem is we can't put into law how they do it. As Councilmember Hudson said, if they want to choose the hardest way to do that, we can't stop you. But we provided so many ways to do it that are much easier. We have recommended that if there is a missing person, which is not what people are doing every single day, but if there's a missing person and you have to speak to multiple folks, that you do not fill out multiple forms, that you have a drop-down that is called a mass questioning, that simply lists the amount of people that you spoke to. We can't put that in the bill because we don't have the authority to put that in the bill. So we have 6 months we put in this to make sure we can get it right. The mayor has done this before when it comes to things like bail reform. I want to be clear about that. And we asked him to please stop the fear-mongering when it came to bail reform. Not only did it cost us Congress, we now can't even convince New Yorkers that we're getting safer because of the fear-mongering that existed before. This has long-lasting effects on our officers who have a tough job and our communities that want that resources when they call it. So I'm asking the mayor to please stop, pause for a second, and do what you said you would do to families who lost people to police violence, which is just sign the bill into law so that we can all get started on the 6 months we put in place to make sure we can get this right. I'm asking also media again, research it for yourself. Look what's in there. That deception, I'm just stunned at how much it actually is. That it could be worse than Giuliani and worse than Bloomberg is shocking to me from an administration that said they were going to come in and do things differently. I hope he joins us in helping us have a much safer city through better policing and holistic strategies. Thank you.
Wow. It's a tough act to follow. Thank you, Public Advocate. This concludes our program for today, and we will open it up to questions at this time. Hi.
I got two questions. One is, have you had any communications in the past couple of days with the administration about the potential vetoes on these bills that we just heard about? And if so, what's been discussed? Kind of where are things with that? And the second question I have is on the committee assignments. You know, some have put out the idea that these reassignments are revenge for the way people voted on the budget. How would you respond to that?
To address the first question with regard to the veto or vetoes, I've heard as much as you have, and they're basically rumors and speculation that this will happen. So we are in a wait-and-see mode until the deadline of tomorrow comes. So that's where we are.
You haven't heard anything from them in the past day or so on status?
No, I have not. With regard to committee changes, I get it. I get the impulse to speculate and try to figure it out and attribute a singular reason behind committee decisions, but it's always a lot more complex than that, realistically. Some people are going to be unhappy about the decisions. There were members that didn't have a committee chair. They wanted to have one last session. They didn't have one, and all of that was involved. But we really do have to be clear that there shouldn't be an expectation that committee assignments remain static across different legislative sessions. I can personally attest to the fact that in my space as a council member, across sessions, my committees were changed. My chairmanships were changed. Nobody owns a committee. So I think that, it's good to change things. It's good to reorganize. It's good to get new energy behind different desks. So that's pretty much where we are. I mean, I understand, the need to want to create something that's not there, but there's no there.
Can you go down the list and explain every change?
No. That was a good try, though. Thank you.
Speaker, I guess going off of that, just curious about what the thinking was broadly looking at the changes. I guess you're saying like there are specific cases, but did you have like a particular way that you wanted to shake things up this session?
Oh, that's a good question. I like the way you put that, shake things up. I'm not going to say shake things up. I'm going to say change, again, for different energy, different creativity. There should never be a place where we are, including the city council, where our energy gets stagnant in certain places, particularly in the way that we want to move in this body. There were some folks that are right there and still continuing that work. That's great. But there are other spaces where we're going to be pushing and propelling other things. Some places where we're going to be going in different directions where there is a need for new energy. Thanks, Ethan.
If it does come to a veto on common stops and solitary time, do you have session? Is this a new Adrian Adams?
What do you mean by that?
New committee assignments, here you are with this big, force to show force against the mayor. Is this going to be, your final term as speaker? Are you pushing back harder?
That is really, really good, what you just asked me. As far as the veto situation, again, we're going to wait and see what that happens. We really do hope that the mayor does not exercise his ability to veto the council's legislation. That is our hope. If he does decide to exercise that power, we will do what we have to do as a council. We will seek to override that veto or vetoes. That is our duty. Those are our bills that we passed successfully, and this council will not support an administrative veto. We would be voting against ourselves. As far as a new Adrian Adams, no, this is the same old girl that's always been here, since 2017. It's still me. But I'll be really, really honest with you, and I've said this in a lot of different spaces, and I'm going to speak to you very honestly as a woman. We morph into different things over the course of time and years and spaces. On a personal note, I've morphed for many, many years, and I keep saying I've lived many lives. What you are seeing now compared to 2017, 2 years ago when I was first elected by this amazing body to represent them as speaker. This is growth, just like in any other space. But it's also experience that I bring forward from other places, corporate America, teaching, education, all of those things. I'm finding now that I can implement in even more places as I grow and morph into the same Adrian Adams, only in an expansive world.
So on the how many stops, if it's already being recorded on the body camera, you're doing the drop down, you're doing all that, why can't we just then export that data? And then, because I just read through it in the handbook, the patrol guide, and it seems to capture all the same kind of things that you guys were ticking off, the demographic information and stuff like that. So why can't we just export that? And if not, isn't it just redundant at that point? Because then if an officer, so I've talked to beat officers about this point, if they have to go through and do this, they put it down in the memo book, then they go do all this stuff on the body camera, then input it there, then input it on another app or another whatever that program, whatever. So wouldn't that just be redundant at that point?
So, one, no. We want to get specific information, some of which they're supposed to recording beginning, and they're not. So that's one of the problems. So this is hopefully helping to push them do what the patrol guide actually says, and they're not. Two, there is additional information that we're trying to get, and we're also trying to section it off. So what we're trying to do is an easier way than if we just left it to try to get it from the body cam, because you actually then have to go back and do additional work. So the way we're presenting it is actually easier to get the information than the way you're talking about. And I'll be honest with you. The conversation I had with administration and PD was like, tell us the easiest way to do this. But every conversation was that they wouldn't do level 1 stops. And so if you have someone that's not doing level 1 stops, we have to move forward. And so some of the drop downs that we're recommending will just add an extra tab, so when you try to aggregate the data or break the data up, we can grab that tab and get that information much easier than going back through all of the body cam footage again to get that data.
But they have to already document.
Not all of the questions that they have to document.
Couldn't this just be added to that?
Yes. Yes, it's exactly correct.
Right now, how it's being implemented, guys that are talking about what they're being told the process is redundant to do the two things.
But so we have said, just add it to what you're doing. We've also said you can do it if it's easier right after the encounter. So you may just want to, while you're walking away, pop, do this, or do it at the end when you have to do it anyway. So you, shockingly, have said exactly what we've been saying and how simple it actually is to just add it to the thing that you're doing anyway. So in that video, like, how in any thought, imagination of what we're saying would add 3 to 5 minutes to what they're doing. It literally cannot, by any stretch of the imagination.
What other, I know, just so further questions. Kelly,
Speaker.
Hi, Kelly.
Could you describe your relationship with the mayor right now? It seems very combative and
Oh, no, it doesn't, Kelly.
do you have any level of communication with him? Is it any form of, is it more than just transactional? Does he
Yeah.
seem open to whatever type of communication you have?
We have very good communication, actually. We speak on the phone. He texted me yesterday morning. So we maintain our lines of communication throughout the week, actually. But there comes a time for implementation, and I think that we both realize the work that we have to do. He's on one side of City Hall. I'm on another side of City Hall. He's the face of the entire city. I am the speaker for 50 members that I'm responsible for and their districts. So our work is different, and we understand that. But we are dialoguing about our work, the differences in our work, the understanding, of each other's positions and work, and all of that good stuff. So yes, we do communicate throughout the week, but we are very, very different in the way that we think, the way that we govern, and the way that we move. So, yeah.
Would you describe your relationship right now frosty? I mean, how would you
No,
say it right now?
no, not at all.
Warm, is it?
Come on, Kelly. I feel like I'm looking for something warmer, colder. It's not frosty at all, actually. It is a very cordial relationship. You got to remember, we've known each other for a very long time. And never in a situation like this, however. But our rapport still exists as quote-unquote friends. But we have very, very serious business to attend to, and we work very differently. So yeah, our relationship is cordial, friendly, warm, but I'll stop there.
and then we'll wrap with Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Speaker.
Hi.
I know there weren't as many pegs that were expected in the preliminary budget. Are there any remaining, though, that are particularly concerning the program services? And secondly, I know you couldn't go through all of the committee assignment changes, but I'm wondering if you could go into your thinking behind moving Councilmember Hanks to public safety and giving that to Councilmember Salam.
Oh yeah, I'd love to. On the budget stuff and the pegs, we're still looking at all of that. Our finance economists are usually pretty accurate in their assessments and their forecasts, and that again was the case this time. So we're going to take a look at everything that's going on with the budget, with the pegs. We're going to see if we get any more drips over the next couple of let's restore some more stuff, which would be great. As far as the committee assignment for Councilmember Salam to be public safety chair, well, yeah. Let me just say, Councilmember Hanks' leadership was fantastic. I handpicked her to succeed me as public safety chair. She's done a great job. As Councilmember Salam comes into this body, he brings something that is very, very unique, and that is his unique experience with the system. I think that we need that. I was talking about energy and information and all of that stuff that makes us who we are. This particular individual will be able to oversee a committee that he has literally been a part of the system behind the scenes. I think that it is the perfect combination. I think that he will be amazing in the space. And again, I'm really, really, I'm proud of the appointment. Hi.
I'm curious what you thought about the mayor's announcement on Budget Day that he's convening this outside panel to look at the budget, sort of private sector leaders, the partnership framework. He's involved. Is there any fear among lawmakers that this was sort of usurping the council's role in the process?
No, the mayor's free to have his advisors. I mean, he can have all the advisors that he wants, but at the end of the day, the budget negotiations are done between the mayor and the council, period.